Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time when your silence will speak louder than your presence ever could. When the best thing you can do for your peace, your power, and your purpose is to walk away and let them feel your absence. Because sometimes it's not your words that wake people up, it's your distance. Let them wonder where your energy went. Let them feel the void you used to fill. And when they finally realize what they lost, you'll already be too far gone, building the life they only dreamed of standing beside. Let them miss you and watch everything change. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pull back your energy, your presence, your kindness, your attention, and let people feel what life is like without your light in it. You see, most people don't value what's always available. They start to take for granted what they assume will always be there. Your consistency becomes their comfort, your effort becomes their expectation, and your love becomes their entitlement. But when you step away, even slightly, when you stop showing up for people who stopped showing up for you, that's when the truth reveals itself. That's when you see who really valued you and who only valued what you did for them. There's power in absence. There's clarity in silence. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop begging to be seen, something shifts. You begin to recognize your worth not through the lens of someone else's attention, but through the quiet realization of your own strength. Sometimes people need to lose access to you to understand your impact. They need to experience the void that your presence once filled. And in that silence, they start to hear what your voice once meant. They start to see what your energy brought. They start to miss what they dismissed. But this isn't about playing games. This isn't about withholding love to manipulate someone. It's about reclaiming your peace. It's about realizing that overgiving is not a sign of strength. It's often a sign of fear. The fear of losing people, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being alone. Yet the truth is, solitude is not your enemy. It's your reset. It's the place where your confidence is rebuilt, your boundaries are strengthened, and your spirit remembers what it deserves. When you allow yourself to be missed, you give yourself the gift of perspective. You allow space for others to step up or step out. Either way, you win. Most people struggle to detach because they confuse attachment with connection. Connection is mutual. Attachment is dependency. When you're connected, both parties pour into each other. When you're attached, one pours while the other takes. And when you finally stop pouring, they call you distant, cold, selfish. But you're not selfish. You're self-aware. You've learned that your worth isn't proven by how much you tolerate. It's proven by how well you protect your peace. When you start walking away from the people and situations that drain you, you'll notice how quickly everything changes. The same people who ignored you will suddenly remember your number. The same ones who said they didn't care will start to wonder where you went. It's human nature. We don't miss people when they leave. We miss them when we realize they're not coming back the same. And you shouldn't. Because the person who left to heal is not the same person who returns. You return stronger, wiser, sharper. You return with boundaries, with standards, with clarity. The shift happens when you stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop over-explaining and you start observing. You stop reacting and you start choosing. You no longer show up out of guilt. You show up because it feels right. And the moment you do that, your energy changes. The way you carry yourself changes. People feel it, even if they can't explain it. You become magnetic not because you're chasing attention, but because you're grounded in your self-respect. Let them wonder why you stopped reaching out. Let them feel the silence they once gave you. Let them question why your energy feels different. That's not pettiness, it's growth. Because you finally understand that peace doesn't come from keeping everyone close. It comes from keeping the right ones close. You're no longer available for chaos disguised as love or for people who only show up when they need something. You've learned that you can't heal in the same space that hurt you. You can't grow where you're constantly belittled. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself, and even for them, is to walk away. When you stop showing up for the wrong things, the right things start to show up for you. When you stop forcing conversations that go nowhere, the right voices start to find you. When you stop begging to be understood, the right people just get you. That's the power of letting them miss you. It realigns your life. It removes the noise and reveals what's real. And once you taste that kind of peace, you won't trade it for temporary validation ever again. You have to trust that your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. You have to believe that not everything deserves a response, not every invitation deserves a yes, and not every apology deserves a return. Sometimes closure doesn't come from another person. It comes from your decision to stop reopening a door that's already closed. The silence you give today will echo longer than any argument you could ever have. And the people meant for you will hear that silence and move accordingly. When you choose yourself, you start to see the world differently. You stop being controlled by emotion and start being guided by intention. You start saying, "I'm not available for anything that costs me my peace." And that's when the universe begins to move differently around you. The same people who took you for granted start to realize what they lost. The same opportunities that once slipped away begin to circle back because your energy is no longer desperate. It's disciplined. And discipline is more powerful than desire. Letting them miss you isn't about revenge. It's about respect, self-respect. It's about standing firm in who you are, even when it means standing alone for a while, because when you're no longer afraid to be alone, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing love and start choosing alignment. You stop tolerating almost and start demanding complete. You stop being available to everyone and start becoming valuable to the few who truly see you. It takes courage to pull back. It takes strength to stop explaining yourself. It takes power to walk away from people you love because they're not loving you right. But when you do, something incredible happens. You make room. Room for peace, room for purpose, room for the people who don't just miss you when you're gone, but appreciate you while you're there. So let them miss you. Let them sit with the silence you left behind. Let them wonder how someone so steady suddenly went still. And when they realize it was because you finally chose yourself, everything changes. Because that's when you stop being an option and start being the loss they never recover from. And as they start to feel your absence, you'll start to feel your power return. The same energy you once poured into explaining, defending, and proving yourself now becomes the fuel that rebuilds your strength. You begin to see how much time and emotion you wasted trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You start to understand that peace doesn't come from getting others to see your worth. It comes from knowing your worth even when they don't. You realize that silence isn't emptiness, it's power. Because in that silence, you hear yourself again. When you stop giving everyone access to your energy, you start noticing who was only there for the benefits and who was there for the bond. The moment you pull back, you expose people's true intentions. The ones who valued you will reach out, not out of guilt, but out of genuine care. They'll miss you in ways that go deeper than convenience, but the ones who only used you for comfort or advantage, they'll fade. They'll replace you quickly because they never saw you as someone to value, only as something to use, and that realization will sting, but it will also set you free. Because finally, you'll understand that not everyone deserves access to your heart, your mind, or your time. As you begin to value your own presence, you start becoming intentional with where you place it. You stop trying to heal people who refuse to change. You stop lowering your standards to be understood by those committed to staying small. You stop chasing people who clearly show you they're not walking in your direction. And as you rise, you start to attract others who are rising too. Your energy begins to match with people who don't drain you, but inspire you. You find conversations that grow you instead of ones that exhaust you. You build connections that expand your peace instead of ones that test it. You'll notice how your entire world changes when you no longer make yourself smaller for the comfort of others. The same people who once dismissed your boundaries will start to respect them, even if they don't like them. The same voices that once tried to drown out yours will fall silent, not because they changed, but because your silence became louder than their noise. You start to carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. Because you've learned that real confidence doesn't need to announce itself, it just moves differently. There's something magnetic about someone who knows their value, someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, someone who walks away with grace. You become that person when you realize that you are not losing people. You're losing the version of yourself that settled for less than what you deserved. Every time you pull back from something that doesn't honor you, you realign with your purpose. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what builds you. And the more you protect your energy, the more your life starts to shift in ways that feel almost divine. But make no mistake, this process isn't easy. Letting go never is. There will be moments of loneliness, moments where you question whether you did the right thing. You'll miss people who don't deserve to be missed. You'll think about reaching out, apologizing for things that weren't your fault, trying to fix what you didn't break. But then you'll remember why you left. You'll remember the sleepless nights, the frustration, the feeling of never being enough. And in that remembrance, you'll find your resolve. Because healing requires discipline. It requires choosing yourself again and again, even when it hurts. You'll learn to be okay with being misunderstood. You'll learn that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You'll learn that walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means growing up. You'll learn that not every battle deserves your presence, and not every person deserves your peace. There's strength in restraint, and there's freedom in detachment. Because detachment isn't about not caring, it's about caring without losing yourself in the process. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look around and notice that the very people who once ignored you are now watching you in silence. They'll see your growth, your calmness, your glow. They'll wonder how you did it, how you became so centered, so unbothered, so unshakable. They'll remember how accessible you used to be, how quickly you used to respond, how easily you forgave, and they'll miss that version of you. But that version of you no longer exists. You've evolved. You've built a new standard, and you're not going back. The truth is, when you stop trying to prove your worth, you give yourself permission to live in it. You stop performing for people's approval and start living for your peace. You stop chasing validation and start building value. And soon you realize that your absence is not punishment. It's transformation, because the POUMPOURAS, people who truly belong in your life, won't let your silence go unnoticed. They'll reach out, they'll adjust, they'll make it right. But the ones who never valued you, your absence will be just another inconvenience to them. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk your journey. Some are just lessons in disguise. Let them miss your kindness, your strength, your laughter, your presence. Let them realize what it meant to have you. But while they're busy missing you, don't stop growing. Don't stop evolving. Don't stop becoming the person you were always meant to be. Because the beauty of pulling back isn't just in what others realize, it's in what you discover about yourself. You'll find out that you were never dependent on their approval. You were just afraid of your own potential. You'll realize that peace was never something to chase. It was something to protect. And you'll see that the people who were meant for you never required you to shrink to fit their comfort. Every moment you choose to be still, you gain strength. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you gain control. Every boundary you set reinforces the message. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be valued. And when you move with that mindset, everything around you begins to shift. Opportunities start to find you. Relationships start to align. Peace becomes your baseline, not your reward. You'll stop chasing what's uncertain and start embracing what's meant. And slowly, your energy will begin to speak louder than your presence ever did. You'll walk into rooms and people will feel something different. They won't be able to describe it, but they'll feel your strength. Because when you stop trying to be liked and start focusing on being authentic, you radiate something rare, self-respect. And that's something no one can fake. The ones who took you for granted will start to replay every conversation, every moment they dismissed you, every time they made you feel small. They'll start to understand what they lost when they realize they can't find your energy anywhere else. You'll become the standard they compare everyone else to, but you won't be waiting for them to realize it, because you'll have already moved forward. You'll have found peace in your own presence, joy in your own company, and strength in your own silence. So when you let them miss you, remember, you're not punishing them. You're healing yourself. You're teaching the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. You're no longer seeking recognition from the outside because you've found validation within. And that kind of power, that kind of peace, changes everything. The distance you create today becomes the clarity you live with tomorrow. The silence you embrace today becomes the peace you carry for life. And as they miss you, as they reflect, as they realize what they lost, you'll be too focused on becoming everything you were always capable of being. Because when you finally understand your worth, the only thing that truly changes is everything. And as everything begins to shift around you, you start to realize something deeper. Your absence was never about teaching others a lesson. It was about reminding yourself who you are when you're no longer trying to be everything for everyone. You begin to see that peace isn't found in the noise of attention, but in the calm of detachment. When you step back, when you allow space between yourself and the world that once demanded so much from you, you finally hear your own thoughts clearly. You begin to understand what truly matters to you, not what others told you should matter, not what you were conditioned to chase, but what actually fulfills you on a soul level. In that silence, you'll find strength you didn't know you had. Because when you stop running after people who don't notice your presence, you start walking in alignment with your purpose. You stop chasing closure from people who aren't able of giving it, and you start creating it for yourself. You stop needing validation from those who couldn't see your worth, and you begin to live in a way that reflects it naturally. It's in that space, when no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is validating you, that you build your real power. Letting people miss you isn't about proving anything. It's about trusting that what's meant for you won't need to be forced. You no longer send that extra text. You no longer check to see if they've noticed your silence, and you no longer bend your boundaries just to be understood. You finally release the illusion that love and attention are something you have to earn. You understand now that real love, real friendship, real connection doesn't vanish when you stop giving endlessly. It remains because it's built on mutual respect, and anything that disappears when you pull back wasn't real to begin with. You start to move differently. You stop explaining your boundaries and simply enforce them. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. Because guilt is what kept you stuck for so long. Guilt for saying no, guilt for disappointing others, guilt for growing beyond certain people. But guilt fades when truth steps in. The truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot heal in the same space that hurt you. You cannot evolve while constantly managing the comfort of others who fear your growth. So you let go. You stop trying to convince people of your worth, and you start embodying it quietly. You begin to see that distance doesn't destroy real connections. It only exposes fake ones. The ones who truly care will feel your absence and rise to meet you where you are. They'll match your energy. They'll value your effort. They'll reach back with the same intention you once gave freely. But the others, the ones who only stayed because of what they could get from you, they'll vanish the moment you stop giving, and you'll thank them for doing so because their absence creates space for something real to enter. You'll also notice how different your peace feels now. It's no longer fragile, dependent on who texts you or who doesn't. It's steady, it's grounded. It's not built on constant interaction, but on inner security. You'll wake up one day and realize that you haven't thought about them in weeks, not because you're bitter, but because you're free. And freedom isn't forgetting someone, it's remembering them without pain, without longing, without the need to go back. People will notice this change in you. They'll sense it in your energy before you even say a word. They'll see it in the way you move, in how you don't chase, in how you don't explain, in how you smile differently. It's the kind of confidence that can't be faked. It's the confidence that comes from surviving disappointment and coming out wiser. The more you heal, the less you react. The more you grow, the quieter you become, and that silence, that composure, becomes your superpower. Those who once overlooked you will feel your absence deeply, not because you've vanished, but because your energy has shifted. They'll remember how they felt around you, the calm, the laughter, the security, the inspiration, and they'll crave it again. But by then, you'll be on a new frequency. You'll no longer be reachable in the same way, because when you heal, you stop speaking the language of pain. You stop resonating with chaos. You start attracting peace, purpose, and people who match your evolution. Sometimes letting them miss you isn't just about relationships. It's about every area of your life. It's stepping away from environments that no longer align with your growth. It's saying no to the job that drains your spirit, no to the friends who gossip instead of grow, no to the habits that keep you small. It's reclaiming your time and energy and realizing that not everything or everyone deserves access to you, because what you all How is what will continue. And when you start living from that truth, the entire world responds differently to you. You'll start attracting new opportunities, new people, new energy, things that feel aligned, not forced. You'll start to notice how peace becomes addictive. You won't chase drama because it feels foreign now. You'll no longer tolerate inconsistent energy because it disrupts the calm you worked so hard to build. You'll stop explaining your boundaries because people who belong in your life won't need them explained. There's a beauty in becoming unreachable, not in an arrogant way, but in a peaceful one. You become unreachable to toxicity, to manipulation, to things that once triggered you, because now you see them for what they are. You've outgrown the need to prove, to fix, to beg. Your energy is no longer available for chaos. It's reserved for clarity. And the people who once underestimated you will sense that something about you is different. You're not angry. You're just done. And that kind of peace is loud. You'll look back on the moments where you were desperate to be seen and realize you didn't need to shout. You just needed to step away. Because stepping away makes the right people step forward. It reveals the truth about relationships, friendships, even opportunities. It teaches you that when you stop forcing things, what's truly aligned will naturally stay. And what's not meant for you will fall apart on its own. You won't have to chase or fight for it. You'll learn that your presence is a privilege, and not everyone deserves access to it. As the days pass, you'll start seeing your reflection differently. The person who once overgave, overexplained, and overextended now stands calm and self-assured. You'll begin to realize that letting people miss you wasn't just about showing them your value, it was about showing yourself what happens when you stop settling. It's about realizing that the world doesn't fall apart when you set boundaries, it actually starts to come together. You'll find that peace and purpose walk hand in hand, and the moment you stop chasing people, you start catching blessings. So you keep walking. You keep choosing yourself even when it's hard. You keep pulling back when something doesn't feel right. You keep trusting that silence reveals what noise hides, and little by little, everything begins to align in ways that make sense. The ones who are meant for you will meet you at your level. They won't need to be chased, reminded, or convinced. They'll show up, just like you've learned to show up for yourself. You'll begin to understand that missing someone isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary, because distance brings clarity, and clarity brings truth. And when the truth comes, you'll see that you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. You were never too emotional, too intense, too kind, or too much. You were just too real for people who preferred things shallow. And when they realize what they lost, it won't be your absence that hurts them most. It'll be knowing they can't find your presence anywhere else. And once you've reached that point, where peace feels natural and solitude feels safe, you begin to understand that life isn't about holding on. It's about allowing flow. You see how much lighter you feel when you stop trying to control outcomes and simply let people show you who they are. You no longer beg for honesty because silence tells you enough. You no longer chase loyalty because actions reveal everything, and you no longer fight for attention because real connection never has to be fought for. You learn to trust patterns over promises. You learn that love without consistency is confusion, and friendship without reciprocity is loneliness disguised as loyalty. You start valuing presence, not performance. The people who show up quietly and consistently, without needing recognition or reminders, those are the ones who belong in your life. You stop being impressed by words and start paying attention to energy. You start noticing who listens when you speak, who claps when you win, and who stands by you when things fall apart. It's not about surrounding yourself with many people. It's about finding the few who make you feel seen. Because peace doesn't come from crowds, it comes from connection. As you move deeper into this version of yourself, you begin to see that letting people miss you was never about creating distance. It was about creating alignment. When you step back, you stop trying to fit into spaces that don't honor you. You stop twisting yourself into shapes that please others but exhaust you. You no longer shrink your light so others can feel comfortable in their shadows. Instead, you walk boldly, unapologetically, knowing that your energy isn't for everyone, and that's exactly how it should be. Because not everyone can meet you where you are going. Some people were only meant to be part of your journey, not your destination. There's a certain calm that comes when you stop forcing things. You stop chasing closure because you've learned that some doors close for a reason. You stop trying to explain your growth to those committed to staying the same. You stop searching for validation in places that once broke your confidence. Instead, you begin to look inward. You realize that the real work isn't about changing others. It's about healing yourself. It's about strengthening the relationship you have with your own soul, learning to trust your instincts again, and remembering that peace is your natural state, not something you have to earn. People may not understand this version of you. They may call you distant, detached, or even cold. But what they don't realize is that you're simply protecting what you once freely gave away: your time, your energy, your emotions. You've learned the hard way that being available to everyone often means being available to no one, especially yourself. So you guard your energy carefully now. You give intentionally, not impulsively. You choose conversations that nourish your spirit, not ones that drain it. And as you do this, life begins to feel lighter, calmer, more aligned with who you really are. The beauty of stepping back is that it allows space for what's real to reveal itself. People who were meant to stay will find a way back, not through manipulation or guilt, but through mutual respect and genuine effort. They'll come back not because they need you, but because they value you. They'll come back ready to meet you at your new level, not to pull you back to your old one. But many won't come back, and that's a gift too, because their absence confirms what their presence once disguised, and in that revelation you find peace instead of pain. You'll start to appreciate the power of selective energy. You'll realize that not everyone deserves the same version of you. The calm, grounded version you've worked so hard to become doesn't belong in chaotic spaces. You've outgrown the need to explain your boundaries because you now understand that people who truly respect you won't require them explained. They'll feel them, they'll honor them, they'll mirror them. As you continue this journey, you'll discover how much stronger you've become in the quiet. The same silence that once scared you has become your sanctuary. You no longer rush to fill the spaces with noise or people just to feel whole. You've learned to sit in stillness and realize you were always whole, you just forgot. You've learned that solitude isn't loneliness, it's a mirror. It shows you where you've healed, where you're still growing, and where you've made peace with the past. And when you reach that level of awareness, you'll see how powerful you truly are. Because when you no longer fear being alone, no one can manipulate you with their absence. When you no longer crave constant validation, no one can control you with approval. And when you no longer need to be chosen, you can finally choose yourself fully. That's when life starts to change in extraordinary ways. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Opportunities that seemed distant start finding their way to you. You stop chasing what's unstable and start attracting what's secure. Because when your energy changes, your entire reality follows. Letting them miss you teaches you that your value was never in your availability. It was in your authenticity. It reminds you that your power isn't in how much you give, but in how well you guard what's sacred. You no longer seek to be everything for everyone. You learn that sometimes your greatest impact comes from your absence, not your presence. People remember how you made them feel, and when that feeling disappears, they begin to understand your worth. They remember your steadiness, your kindness, your wisdom, your patience, and they start to realize how rare it was. But by then, you're not waiting for them to realize it. You've already moved forward. You're too busy building, healing, growing. You've learned that your peace is worth more than anyone's approval. You've learned that closure isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. You've learned that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And in that wisdom, you find power, the quiet, unshakable kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. You begin to live with a deeper sense of purpose. You show up for yourself the way you once showed up for everyone else. You start setting standards that reflect your growth, not your loneliness. You no longer accept halfway love, halfway effort, or halfway respect, because you now understand that the way people treat you is often a reflection of what you've allowed, and you're done allowing what doesn't honor your peace. As time passes, the people who once took you for granted will think of you often, not because you've become a distant memory, but because you've become an unshakable reminder of what self-respect looks like. They'll remember how your presence brought calm to chaos, how your consistency made them feel safe, how your words carried truth. And though they may never say it out loud, they'll miss you in ways they can't describe, because losing someone who carried peace is something you never truly recover from. Meanwhile, your focus will no longer be on who misses you, but on what you're becoming. You'll find joy in your own company, strength in your solitude, and fulfillment in your purpose. You'll start doing things not for validation, but for meaning. You'll invest in yourself, in your growth, in your future. And slowly, you'll realize that letting people miss you wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of everything. Because the moment you stopped giving your energy to those who didn't value it, the universe started aligning you with people who would. The moment you stopped chasing what was fading, new doors began to open. And the moment you chose peace over approval, you started to truly live. You'll look back one day and realize that what you thought was loss was actually liberation, that the distance you created became the bridge to your highest self, and that letting them miss you was never about them, it was about you remembering who you've been all along.